It's monthly Mormon Mondays. It's time for the secret handshake. Tune in and reach through the veil. It's time for monthly Mormon Monday.
Today we're going to talk about UFOs and Mormons in UFOs and Mormons seeing UFOs and whether or not UFOs work with Mormon religion. This is Paranoid American, and that's Heidi Love from Unfiltered Rise podcast. How you doing?
I am doing great. I'm back from Alaska, where I know you just went to recently, and so I'm land sick, but other than that, I'm great. Did you get land sick?
What's land sick? Is that when you just
I'm
don't
great.
want to come back from vacation?
Well, I mean, clearly, but no. It's when you get off the boat and you're fine on the boat. It's like seasick, but on land, and your ear crystals get all weird, and you feel like you're still moving on the
I've never
boat.
even heard. Okay, so feeling like you're still moving the week or two after I got back, if I was just to like sit here like this talking to you,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
swear it was feeling like I was like
Yes.
swaying back and forth
Yep.
for a while,
Land
but
sick.
it didn't feel sick. I kind of liked it. It was kind of weird.
Oof, I don't like it so much, but I don't like being dizzy, so I'm definitely land sick. I never get seasick. Funny enough, I'm fine. My mom, she gets seasick, so I guess I'll take the opposite. Speaking of my mom, shout out to her, because without her tonight, Heidi would have missed it.
Yeah, and happy birthday, by the way. Happy
Thank
belated
you.
birthday.
Thank you. I thought this was tomorrow, but I'm happy it's tonight and it's fun. So I'm happy to be on.
And since the last time we did a show, you've had an episode that came out on the confessionals, and you had one that just came out a couple days ago on Tinfoil Hat. So you've made it, right?
Yes.
You've got the Lambo. You're like, I
Right.
assume next you're going to be on. When's the Joe Rogan date? Is that next month or the
Right.
month after?
Oh, I mean, highly doubtful ever, but hey, I would do it if I could, right? Like that'd be fun. But yeah, people were tagging me like you should do one with all these famous people. I'm like, right, okay, hook that up. Like I don't know how to do that.
How's the reception been? Have you been looking at the comments of either of these streams?
I, I was telling you before we went live. It's a weird dichotomy because I fully prepared myself on Tinfoil Hat to be brutalized, right? Because I mean, a lot of different people watch that show. It's not just Christians, it's all kinds of people. And then on the confessionals, I was very opposite. I thought, oh, these guys will totally understand because they're Christian. And nope, it was the other way around. And I thought that was weird. Tinfoil Hat people were like, this is great, awesome, cool. And then like the confessionals were like, she's a liar and she's going to hell. So there's that. Not
Well,
only that, there was
I mean, in your opinion, is this because criticizing Mormonism can be conflated with criticizing Christianity? Like if someone's not Mormon and they hear you're criticizing Mormons, could they be like, "Oh, she's bad talking Jesus"?
Yeah, yeah, I think I was in trouble. I don't know what exactly happened there, but I do know this, like, they either loved it and they were like, "Totally a cult, we get it, duh," or they were like, "She's going to hell because she's wrong and everything she says is wrong," and I'm like, "Okay, but I don't just say things ever, like, I always bring receipts, so, yeah, like, you didn't do your homework, right? Hey, Jeremy, JJ Vance, not the vice president." So yeah, I don't know. It was weird because I felt like, okay, this is like really brutal. And the one that they got me the most with is the Mormon bloodlines. Jeremy actually pointed this out today. He's like, whenever you speak about Mormon bloodlines ever again, I want you to preface it with like a whole bunch of things because people cannot follow the little red ball. Like I'm like, no, I get it. And he's like, you said like 5 times actual royalty, like kings and queens, like nothing to do with Mormons. Yes, he was a Mormon, but like this is who they were, had nothing to do with one, didn't have anything to do with the other, or did it? Which is where I was going with that into the Templars because my family hails from up in Acadia, which gets interesting, as you well know, with Templars. And so, like, it gets weird, and it just does. And it's fun. It's a fun rabbit hole. But at the same time, like, I get it. No, Joseph himself wasn't royalty, but did he say he was? He sure as heck did. He did. So
I mean, it almost seems that now, in retrospect, Joseph Smith is royalty. He founded a freaking religion, right? That feels more royal than actual royalty.
well, you'll like the story being from your background. Okay, so Joseph Smith said he was the perfect combination, which is why Crowley called him a moonchild, because he was actually from the tribe of Manasseh and the tribe of Ephraim, making him the bloodline of Jesus perfectly. And he says that Jesus Christ had children. We know this story from like the famous movie, right? I don't know if we can say it, but everybody knows, and like Holy Grail
Wait,
stuff.
I'm missing what famous movie? The Passion of the
The Gra
Christ?
No, the one with Tom Hanks, the Grail movie. The Holy
Oh,
Grail movie.
Da Vinci Code? Well, you're not allowed to
Have you
say Da
seen
Vinci
movies?
Code?
I
What
don't
is
know, every time
What is
we
it,
talk about
banned?
movies, I get shut down.
I'll say
Like,
Da
they're
Vinci
like,
Code. I don't care.
"Okay,
Did we
let's do
burn the
it."
channel over saying Da Vinci Code?
Whatever. Yeah, people keep pulling stuff down. That's copyrighted, blah, blah. I keep getting in trouble, but whatever. It's fine. So Da Vinci Code clearly has this narrative, but the Mormons really jumped on the bandwagon with this because Joseph Smith himself said that this was like his thing. And I'm sorry, like I don't know how to make this less painful for people, but literally he said that Jesus had 3 wives, and that's why they're all supposed to have 3 wives, and that's why you can't go to heaven without 3 wives. And so this is not my rules. Like I didn't make this crap up, and neither did I make up the weird toad story, which was the second thing they just crucified me over. And I'm like, listen to me, people. I did not make the affidavit that states these weirdo facts. Like they are not mine. I wish they were mine, sort of, because they would be cooler and I would make them better. Like, I don't know. But yeah, it is what it is. Psh. So, Hurlbut affidavits, Toad Story, don't know what to tell you.
Someone's asking in the comments, where did Aleister Crowley say this? Well, and I just did a
Oh,
quick search. It's in the Moonchild book. It's in the book itself.
absolutely.
It-
And he was fascinated. We did so Joel Thomas and I on Free the Rabbits, we did a whole comparison with Crowley and Joseph Smith. And this comes up time and time again. And I'm sorry, you guys, like they themselves, and if you look up specific dates and important dates, Joseph Smith was born on December 23rd. He was born in a call. Like he was coming from magical beginnings, whether you guys want to call it folk magic or Solomonic. I don't care. I say Solomonic because it's more correct. But this whole call birth, when you're born with the intact sac and the waters have not been broken, it's a big deal. And so for the magical world. So yeah, check out that episode. It was really good. So I don't know.
So there you go.
I didn't make
It's
it up.
in the Moonchild book. So we didn't make this one up.
I
Only
don't
all
make
the
it
other
up.
ones.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, I wish I made things up because I would be more clever, but I don't
Moonchild, yeah.
know.
Well, Moonchild is a fictional book,
Sure.
although all the characters were based on real people that Crowley knew and like their little inner dynamics. But yeah, of course, it's a freaking fictional book. He's talking about invoking demons into pregnant feti.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
well, let me just ask, do you believe any of the actual Moonchild stuff? Like you bring a pregnant lady out into the
Oh,
desert and you bang under a certain astrological sign, and like a spirit wandering the desert jumps into the baby, and then you give birth to the Antichrist. You're nodding yes.
it's
Like, yeah.
pretty cool Nephilim shit. Like I just, think that possibly it couldn't jump into it, but maybe have an attachment, right, per se. And then as the child grows, if there is a point where there's a weakness after a certain age, right? We all argue about this age. In the Mormon church, it's 8 after the age of innocence is over. If you were like this wicked Damien, right? Like, I don't know. It seems possible. Like people believe in guardian angels, but they have a really hard time with this other half, right? And what does God say in the Bible? It says, don't trust these spirits because they're familiar spirits. And why do we call them that? Because they know you. They know you miss your brother or your uncle or your son, and they're going to come as those people. They're not going to be like, what's up? I'm Pazuzu. Like, that's not happening unless you're Crowley. And then it did. But whatever.
This is fun too. Just searching online for did Aleister Crowley talk about Joseph Smith? Look at this on the front page results: the Joseph Smith Aleister Crowley connection with Heidi Loves. So now you're like,
There it is.
you get to reference your own claims as proof. This is a
There it
wonderful
is. There it
thing. And
is.
look, here's proof.
Yeah.
There's proof.
There's the
that it's
proof.
here.
I said it. No. I actually, and I got the worst review I've ever had on my own channel, which I was like, actually, this is hilarious. But if y'all watch me and you haven't reviewed me on Apple, do a kindness and go rate my show and give me like an actual review, because it's a little rough. But the people were like, this know-it-all dumbass girl that thinks she's so smart. And I'm like, look, I never said that. I just said I spend a lot of time researching stuff. And then she's like, and she never shuts up. I'm like, clearly you have not delved into my show enough to know that. Like, I already know that. But they're like, never lets the guest speak. And she just has these pearls. This is the actual quote: pearls of wisdom after everything. And I'm like, listen, nobody says shit to Joe Rogan and Sam Tripoli when they interrupt and have a conversation, which is what I like. I don't want to be preached to. I want to have a conversation. I want to have some fun. Like, that's so boring. No.
Sometimes getting preached to can be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what church is about. That's the whole point. You go to church.
That's why I don't go. That's why I don't go.
Yeah, and okay, just in case anyone is still wondering, like, what chapter, what verse, here's Moonchild. One of the many different covers, is not the original cover. And right here, here's an actual quote. And one, the character Lisa sees, and then it basically is this whole description of Joseph Smith. And they're talking about red Indians or Israelites, the neophytes.
And he actually specifically says the man Joseph Smith. And the thing is, you know, Crowley hated all religious people because his dad died from a horrible issue. And then, you know, he probably could have got better if he just would have went to the doctor, but like he didn't, because they prayed for him. And anyways, he had a beef with the church the rest of his life. So he hated churchy stuff, but he freaking loved Joseph Smith. So y'all tell me what's going on there.
And this was one of his other connections to Mormonism, was a guy named Matthew McBlain Thompson, who was a Mormon and he was a Freemason and like contemporary to Crowley. And I guess that this is part of what kept Crowley.
That guy's fascinating. We should do that actually someday. That guy and another lady that started a whole cult. Fascinating. There's so many offshoots, right? Like, we could do this all day. That's why I don't make up anything, because it's fascinating all by itself. I don't have to make anything up because it's out there for everybody to see, right? Like, I don't have to do anything but quote it. And somebody did say, she's just reading Rough Stone Rolling and she's not doing a good job of it. I'm like, cool story, bro. Like, clearly there was a whole book written about this. So your point is, like, I mean, I'm not making it up. So there's that.
Another interesting from this wiki page on Matthew McBlain Thompson, and it says, in his confessions, Crowley writes that he received a shower of diplomas from Bucharest to Salt Lake City, with Salt Lake City being a reference to this guy Thompson. So yeah, Crowley often wrote about Mormonism and Joseph Smith in particular.
Yep.
It is what it is. And if anything, it makes Mormonism cooler and it makes Crowley cooler. It's a twofer.
It's okay. And like I always say, look, people want to magic it up. Go magic it up. But here's the deal. You better know what you're doing, because every one of these people that magic it up, I don't think they had good endings. Like, other than Hubbard, I will give Hubbard this. He kind of slid out of all the other issues, right? He did pretty good for himself, and he didn't blow himself up, and he stole Jack's girl and like all the things. So like, whatever, I'll give it to him. But like, everybody else, pretty bad lives afterward. Like, it's not amazing. So I don't know. It's a slippery slope. Even magicians will tell you Solomonic magic is really dangerous. And if you don't do all the things, which are really long and tedious, and purification and HDA, it gets into so much stuff that we can't, like, we would have to do 12 episodes. It's a lot. It's so much.
Let's do it. Part 1 of 12, where it starts right now.
Here it is. All right, I'm down.
And Hubbard didn't get like eaten by wild dogs or anything, but he didn't go out necessarily peacefully in his sleep. He had a stroke.
Well, wait a minute.
Aphasia, and he wasn't able to talk for however long until he died.
Did Jack go out peacefully? Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
he went out
terrible.
doing what he
Did you
loved,
catch it? Pieces,
right? Because he
peacefully.
exploded, yeah, in pieces. Yeah.
I'm terrible.
Rest in peace,
Okay,
Jack
so
Carson.
I don't think he blew himself up. Honestly, I think he knew enough to know better, and I think that might have had some planning with it. He did work for Howard Hughes. Did you know that? Do you know that?
I've heard that, although I don't know, man. Jack Parsons blowing himself up sounds like the most logical
I
conclusion
mean,
to his entire life. That his whole thing was playing it a little bit fast and loose, right?
right, but I don't know. I have a hard time with that one, but you know me, I think every time somebody dies, like, weirdly, I'm like, "Ma, three-letter agency." So, I don't know. I think he knew a lot. I think they were concerned about it. I think Hubbard would definitely have wanted him out of the picture because, he's messing up his game, and so it is what it is. But,
Right.
Hubbard, me and my husband were talking about this. We were on a vacation, right? We're in not Seattle, Boise. There's a convention going on. My husband says, "So this looks like a Amway convention." And I used to do that stuff. And then, but to get to the top,
From one
yeah.
cult to another.
Right,
Were
right.
you in Amway while you were
I
also
was
Mormon?
never. No, my husband. And so he says, you got to dress up and you got to buy all the books and you got to write a book if you ever want to get anywhere. And I said, right. You do realize what you're talking about, right? And he goes, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, they're not making money off the actual product, right? They're making money off of everything else. So it's just Mormonism 2.0 and it's Scientology and it's all the things. And he's like, what? Like for a minute, he was like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, it's the same thing. It totally works because Hubbard proved it. So, like, yeah, the model works. And he was like, I never even thought about it like that. And I'm like, well, there it is. Like, I don't know.
What do
Yeah.
you mean the model works?
You have to join the book thing and have the books delivered and it's really not about the money you spend on the products. It's about you have to have the newest book and you have to go to the conventions at 150 a pop back in the day when this was like 2007, I think he said. $150 a ticket to go to the convention. I said, "Well, can you skip the convention?" And he's like, "No, it's kind of looked down on." And I'm like, "Okay, so really it's not about these products that you would buy anyways," which is how they rope you in and you're saving this money, but you're really not because now you have to buy the book of the month club and now they want you to write a book and if you want to go to the top it's the upper echelon and we're right back to Mormonism and Scientology, like we're back to the 1%, right? You're never going to be them because you aren't them. It's just not.
And
Yeah.
once that they've proven that you'll buy something, if you're going with the MLM cult version, once you've bought something, then you have proven yourself to be their perfect customer, so they're going to keep selling you. I guess it is like Mormonism. Like once you've bought
And
into
guilt.
the system
Hmm.
and the
Well,
guilt,
guilt.
but there's a better chance that they can keep selling you more stuff than there is a chance that they can convert someone new. So it sounds pretty typical.
Absolutely. And then you are the one that's like, "Oh, I did all the things and look at me. I get a gold star on my head." So, I mean,
Does
it
Amway
is.
have a second anointing level?
Yeah, it's called Write Your Own Book, and then you have to do all of the seminars, right? Like, you have to be in it. You have to be the speaker. And so when he was telling me all this, I was like, sounds the same." But yeah, whatever. I mean, and
I'm
he
curious, when
agreed.
you were growing up, because you're talking about Amway, did
Mhm.
Mormon children go through the
Shackley.
same? Because when I mean, I didn't grow up in a Mormon community, but almost every school that I ever went to and all my friends, you would have to do this fundraising where you would go door to door selling wrapping
Mhm.
paper was a big one, or they do like
Magazines.
chocolate bars. Were there Mormon
Uh-huh.
versions of this where like the Mormon kids go door to door selling stuff?
No, but we did the same things for our schools, and if you were Mormon, then the old Mormon lady might buy your stuff better than if you weren't, right? Like, the neighbors
I
did
wouldn't
far
give my
better.
money to any non-Mormon if I was in a Mormon community and I knew these kids were
Right.
coming through.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, your money would get where it's supposed to be probably, hopefully, but, I
To the
mean,
church.
it's yeah, exactly. It's all the same thing, different way of presenting it, I would say, and it works. We see it all the time. Like Scientology, you can't advance, you can't know about Zenu unless you have the 3,000 books that cost all this money, and people will tell you about that. And so, and speaking of Zenu, like aliens, right? We know same thing for Mormonism. Like it's not Zenu, it's Elohim, but And then people are like, you're so stupid. Oh, this was a comment. You're so stupid. That's just the Hebrew name for God. I'm like, is it? Did you do all your homework? Did you happen to look at the other words that could be translated into? Because it's plural, first of all, and it can also mean other things. And so it could be an angel. It's basically anything outside of our realm.
Wait,
If we want to
Zenu
do
is
that.
plural?
Elohim.
Okay. I thought, is Zenu just another version of Elohim, the L. Ron Hubbard version?
Right. I don't know about Zenu if he's, pluralized, but as far as the Mormons, when you get to that level, instead of Zenu, it's Elohim, and Elohim is plural. Well, they want to bring it back to, well, you're so dumb, blah, blah. I'm like, right, I'm the dumb one. You believe that Joseph Smith was a dumb farm boy that couldn't read or write, and he's studying Hebrew. Cool beans. I'm the dumb one. Yeah. Sounds like a perfect thing, but that's all right.
So speaking of Mormons and aliens and UFOs is kind of the topic today. Here, this is all fairly new to me. I've heard of Skinwalker Ranch because they've got a TV show on Discovery, I think it is. And me and you collectively, we must know dozens of people that have been there and have interviewed about Skinwalker Ranch. Cards on the table, I'm not the biggest fan of alien and UFO theories. Never really have been. Ever since the X-Files movie. I think they kind of phoned it in, and the X-Files movie ruined me on aliens for a very long time. But this guy here, when I was just doing the most superficial, surface level research of Mormon UFO sightings, and this guy keeps coming up over and over again. This is Junior Hicks, Joseph Junior Hicks, who died 5 years ago. And he was from Utah, and he's kind of a legend within the Skinwalker Ranch community. That part was new to me. I didn't know that this guy was related directly to it. I don't know if have you ever heard of this guy before?
So not this guy per se. I know with, Skinwalker Ranch that there's currently a Mormon that owns Skinwalker Ranch. Brandon Fugel owns Skinwalker Ranch. If you try to go there, they will shoot you. Just FYI, don't try and go on their property because they will chase you off of their, like, literally with guns. And so, yeah, that's some fun. But there are a lot of alien sightings, like quote unquote alien, right? I mean, it only makes sense. They're using a whole bunch of things here to generate like energy. I mean, we've got the spiral jetty, we've got all these weird, portal looking rock formations, we've got these weird cults that branch off of Mormonism. We've got a whole bunch of stuff here that just seems like, wow, we've got the desert and the mountains. Let's just have a party, right? And some salt water that's like the Dead Sea. So but yeah, Brandon Fugel, he's the owner now. So he don't fuck around. He will shoot you.
Brandon Fugel, and it says Skinwalker Ranch team is saddened to hear of the passing of Joseph Jr. Smith. His work documenting UFO phenomenon at the ranch and surrounding areas leaves an indelible influence our continued efforts and research. So yeah, this guy was an OG Skinwalker Ranch Mormon.
Which, I mean, there is a lot of channeling. Like, people don't like that word, but like, okay, these things that we do in the temple, they charge the house. Okay, I'm just going to put it that way. When you are charging the house and you don't understand what the house is, okay, you're literally putting that somewhere. Like, it doesn't surprise me that things happen here, right? So, I mean, it is what it is.
I think that this topic in particular is interesting because one of my impressions of Mormonism so far is that it's, along with Scientology, one of the only modern religions that acknowledges space and planets, and not in a classical 7 classic planets kind of way, but actually that you can travel to outer space. My favorite one is that there's Quakers living on the moon that came directly from Joseph Smith, right?
And the sun, there are people living on the sun.
This all seems pretty groundbreaking for a religion founded in the 1800s. I don't know of a lot of other religions that talked about people living on the moon and living on the sun. So it feels like Mormons might be predisposed to be more accepting of aliens than almost any other religion. I mean, growing up Roman Catholic, I guess the impression that I got from that was that if you saw an alien or something from outer space, it's probably a demon or an angel or something divine or the opposite of the divine, and it's not an alien. It's not an extraterrestrial.
Well, you know how to check, if they're evil.
You got to check the awakener. You got to look real close.
You actually have to shake its hand, because that's what they say is if you can shake its hand, then you're in the clear. And I'm like, that's hilarious. I wonder if that worked for John D, but whatever. And when we look at this stuff, I think, they also obviously talk about, okay, we're all going to be gods one day and we're going to own our own planets. We're going to make our own planets. So they have a lot of crossover talk, and that possibly like this inter-realm, like, oops, sorry, we bumped into your realm. Like, we'll leave now or whatever, and the Jewish do this too. I mean, they'll talk about it. So, yeah.
Those Jewish.
I mean,
now
they say there's
we just got banned from saying that.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, but they do say there's this was from, and I can say this because this was actually from a Jewish person that said, we try to stay out of areas that are dirty, like bathrooms and whatever, because there's so many demons in there that literally, if you could see them, they would be all over you, right? That's from
just underground tunnels for us under the streets of New York City. Just a clean one.
Right. And I mean, there's been some really interesting papers. I had Dr. Richard Spence send me one about alien like lights and different things here in Utah, of course, and talking about this kind of stuff. And it's called Lights in the Sky. And I just find it interesting that a lot of this stuff is not just accepted, but actually kind of proven with mass numbers. And when we're talking about a religion that chose their next leader after Joseph because their dead prophet translated into Brigham Young, and they saw Joseph Smith and that's how they chose Brigham Young. I mean, why are we scoffing at anything else, right?
I might scoff a little at the concept of proven through numbers. I mean, it's not like you get to vote on reality. Right. If you fool 99 people in a room full of 100, you didn't necessarily create reality, although you can be perceived like you did, right? Have you ever seen a UFO in your entire life?
No, I just saw, what is it, Space Link or something like that, and that scared me once.
Like a satellite floating by, and you were...
Yeah, they were just like all those lights, and I was like, whoa, what is that? Okay. But
I think we're living in a unique time right now because you can actually look into the sky and find an anomaly like, oh, that's not there. What's that thing moving? But I assume in the near future, once Elon Musk has a complete mesh of satellites completely surrounding us at all times, you're always going to be seeing weird lights and weird things moving in the sky. And it would be hard to pick the one out that's not normally there from all the ones that are always there.
Granted, I mean, I get that one, but what about back then? I don't know.
There's no shortage of Mormon UFOologists and UFO. Here's another one, and I don't know any of these names before we looked them up today. This guy, Frank B. Salisbury, inventor of the Salisbury steak, I believe. And he grew up in... That's not true. I just made that up. Are you
playing?
Yeah, I'm making that up. But he grew up in Salt Lake City. He served in the Army Air Force. He was a missionary in Switzerland, Mormon missionary. And he also wrote about UFOs. Member of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. Endorsed creationist arguments. And then one of his books was called The Utah UFO Display, a biologist's report from 1974. He also wrote in 1967, The Scientist and the UFO. So there's not a lot of other details on him necessarily, but he clearly believed enough in UFOs to write about them a few times.
Well, there's a few people, I mean, and they'll definitely say God instead of alien or angel, right? Like, and there's a guy, I gotta find his name, this guy that created free electricity, and it's very much the Tesla situation, and he was a Mormon, and he actually said, which we have a lot of inventors that come from Mormonism as well, like Philo Farnsworth that invented the television. He was a Mormon. But this particular guy, I'll find his name. He said, "I will not sell my free energy stuff because God gave it to me." And literally God like gave me this, not in like a dream, like in real, kind of like a John D thing, right? Like showed up, and yeah, I'm not going to sell. And he didn't, and it actually ruined his life, and it was sad. But he really was this great inventor that just happened to be a Mormon, and a lot of them are, and some of them, many of them say they got it from entities. So I don't know.
This is brand new to me. I know about Philo Farnsworth because he again was. If you ever go into like the occult history of television and are they programming us with the 50 hertz and 60 hertz signals, he comes up constantly because he was at the forefront of that. I had no idea that he was Mormon, but yeah, sure
He
enough,
was, yep.
it says that right in his Wikipedia article here that he was Mormon.
And Thomas Henry Moray, and many people know about the Moray valve. He calls it the Moray valve. And he has a patent for it and the whole 9 yards. During the 1920s, he worked in the emerging field of radio. And after hundreds of experiments, he literally said that God gave this to him. And he proved that he could do electricity without like all the wires and all the things, and basically figured out the same thing as Tesla. And for the rest of his life, the CIA or other 3-letter agencies shot at him, like ruined his life because he wouldn't sell the patent. And so, I don't know.
I looked this up when you were mentioning the Mormon and free energy. Mormonism as a spiritual energy harvesting system. I could kind of believe that. Like just Mormons are just looshing you, but looshing you for their purposes instead of the real energy, I guess.
Yep.
Spiritual parasitism, feeding off devotion. Okay, fair.
Well,
I think that this was written by AI. I see all these M dashes in here.
But also, if you know about, okay, why the hell would people do a sigil, or why would they do a magical, any kind of magical thing? And especially if you don't know why you're doing it, right? If you have no idea what you're doing and you're doing it anyway, you're powering something. And so where is it going? And I think they have learned a lot about harnessing energy. To your point, I do. I think that is my whole point of being upset about the way they handle things, not about Mormons themselves. Like I've said, it's porch Mormons, right? They don't know what they're doing. I didn't know what I was doing. Nobody knows. But at this point, the top echelon does know. And I do believe they have learned to harness energy. I mean, I do. And I do think that people can make energy. Like otherwise, why would anybody ever do magic? Why would it continue? It would have died off. Like, come on.
PA is Mormon. Heidi is ex-Mormon. Let's get this straight. Heidi is the Exmo. I'm what we call a Mamo, which means that I may be a Mormon one day, but not today.
Not today. Not today. He's learned. He wants the Mormon to go back to Metal Mormon when it was Joseph Mormonism and they did magic, but they're lame now.
So when you first started telling me about treasure hunting and using dowsing rods to find caverns, and that they were using sigils from old grimoires, and they're reading old occult books from John D. Yeah, I'm on board. Like I realized if someone had told me growing up, this is Mormonism. Mormonism is all about grimoires and ancient Enochian magic and sigils, it would have been a huge selling point.
Yeah. But they killed it.
But they screwed it up. Yeah, they killed their own sale. They were like, we don't sell that stuff anymore. We don't believe in that. That was our old generations. So once Mormonism comes back around and they say, you know what, planets are back on the table. We've got magic dancing frogs that'll knock you out and all this other cool magic stuff, then I might be more open to Mormonism. But right now, it almost feels like all the parts that I find the coolest, if I showed up and asked about it, they'd be like,
Nope.
"Oh, that you don't do any
You're
of that."
crazy. What are you talking about? Why would you bring that up? That's a lie. And to the point of, salamanders, somebody mentioned the great white salamander. Well, that was redone. And why was it redone in that way? Well, the salamander, especially a white salamander, not forged by the flame, Templar idol, like these things, and it's a representative, and we get into alchemy and all these things. But like if you didn't know that and you just thought it was this thing, I mean, it looks much better than a witch's familiar, which is a toad, or about the story of Baal, which, I mean, if we get into that, there's toads involved and transformation into a man with the Baal story too. So, or Baal, however you want to say it. But we talk about these things that are ancient, and people say that's not true. Well, I hate to tell you, I didn't write it. Like it's an affidavit. And when they're doing this stuff, they're burning people at the stake or hanging them. And I just don't think you'd want to go on record to be like, yep, this happened and blah, blah, blah. But also, it's completely there for the courts for the rest of whenever until it burns down or something. So why would you go on paper with that if you're putting your life at risk? And also they say that family hated the Smiths. Funny story is his sister married a Smith after. So no, null and void. Sorry. He also borrowed the horse and buggy and all the things he needed that were black from these people to go get the plates. So I have a hard time with that one. I think they were friends, That's where he stole his rock. So
We've got a whole bunch of other really good Mormon UFO links. So, for example, one of them was what you can look this up on Wikipedia. It's called the 1947 flying disc craze. And this is in 1947 when all of a sudden multiple reports started coming out about these flying discs. And one of them in 1947 was from the Deseret News of Salt Lake City, July 7th, 1947. For all the gematria people that are going crazy out there, 7/7, 1947. And then here's an actual news article from it. Salt Lake City, Utah, Monday, July 7th, 1947. FBI probes deadly rust clouds report. And this is talking about the writer gave the source of his information as an officer of a Soviet tanker that was recently in Los Angeles harbor. And they're talking about this atomic plane that was 18 inches thick. And it's essentially UFO. We're talking about these flying saucer UFOs. And this is almost 100 years ago, right? This is just shy of 80 years ago.
Well, and the thing is when we get into all of this stuff, I mean, all of the people even connected to Howard Hughes that we know about that are involved with the JFK stuff and the Mormon Mafia stuff later, they're all part of one of the main things for UFOs in the first place. The Guy Bannister, we've got Mayhew involved. We've got all these people involved, and they all know each other, and then it goes into Mormons again. So yeah, and Hughes had his own hangar at area 50, what is it, area 51, whatever, the main one. And so it's weird, why would they? It's like they all know something we don't know, clearly. And I don't put that past anything. Do I think it's an alien? I think it's just other dimensions. Like I'm all about those dimensions, if you read Steiner's work, I don't know, I think he had some knowledge there, but whatever.
Steiner, one of my favorite philosophers, named after one of Santa's reindeers.
Oh yeah.
And then if you're talking about Area 51, Mormons do have their own version of Area 51, which is Granite Mountain Record Vault, right? You've been there. You go there on weekends. What's that place like?
Oh, I go there on weekends. You will get shot. People are saying you won't get shot or ran off if you go to Skinwalker Ranch. Well, I have been, and yes, they do. If it is evening, you will get a gun pulled on you, but whatever.
They shot Heidi. Last time you were there,
no, they
shot
didn't.
You, didn't they? That's what
No,
you
they
said?
no,
Okay.
no, they shot at my kids though, and they took a dog from there. It's probably possessed, but she's a good girl. And this is even more heavily guarded. This is guarded by actual armed guards with like automatic rifles. So yeah, nobody's getting in here at all or out. There's razor wire and all kinds of fun stuff.
Do you
But
have to be Mormon to work here? Like, are all the security
oh,
guards Mormon, you
oh,
think?
well, they are actually part of like the Mormon CIA. Old World Micmac, what's up? Yeah, no, they are. They're all part of it. And so you can't know the thing. Like you have to be at a certain level. If you're in the secrets and you know certain things and you're at certain levels, then you get certain jobs. It's not like you can go apply for this job
You got to be
tomorrow.
a 33rd degree Mormon in order to get in here.
Probably. Maybe 96. Oh, yeah.
And if you're not familiar, Granite Mountain Records Vault, it says the largest collection of genealogical records that was started in 1965, and essentially inside these huge archives, it says more than 3.5 billion images on microfilm and digital media. And this is essentially where the FamilySearch.org website is at, which you tried to get me into, and then I realized that you just want me to submit
No.
my DNA to the Mormon
No
Church. You're
DNA.
still
It's
working for
it's
them.
it's just your genealogy. They probably already have it, is what I said. But yeah, no. The thing is about this, and this is how Mormons will get around this. They'll say, we don't own 23andMe. We don't own any of these places. I'm like, right. But everything you do own pours into it. And why is that? Well, do you know how this was all formed? FamilySearch.org was formed under Howard Hughes, under Bill Gay, under Hughes Dynamics. He started uploading all of this to the databases early on with computerization. And where did they get those from? Where did they get all this information? Well, the Nazis had it. So they made a sweet deal with the CIA after they got it and IBM. And they were able to retrieve all of the punch cards from the Holocaust. And yeah, so that's a real story. Bill Gates' mother was involved on that. And a lot of times she gets skipped over. If you put in, did Mary Gates work for IBM? No, she didn't. She was only on the board. So yeah, way more important.
I think it's wild that the history goes from 1894, which is when they founded Family Search, one of the first websites ever, the first website in 1894. 1924, they start translating into multiple languages. 1938, they begin to actually do like government style archival. 1964, the first family center opens that you can go and do your own thing. And then from 1964 to 1999, so there's just a gap of about 3 decades, a
Huge.
full generation.
Mhm.
Like, what were they up to between 1964 and 1999?
So what they did is they called, and I know this for a fact because my grandma got called to this mission. They would call older people to these genealogical missions. And this is why I know so much about this, because she was one of those missionaries where she didn't go anywhere. She just stayed home and she was just killing it on the keyboard all day long, inputting all this information for the church for free. So they used these missions to do this work and get this all computerized. So a lot of times, that's how they got that done. But it took a long time to get it all in. I mean, yeah.
Interesting too, because it said in one of these, 2002, it becomes the first searchable record collection on FamilySearch.org. And I believe this is also when they start digitizing things, was about in 2002, which coincidentally, I believe is about the same year that the United States military began to digitize their records, and they moved away from filing cabinets and physical, because I was in the military at that exact moment, and it was the most inconvenient thing ever. I would have to go and file for some waiver or whatever, and the records were like sometimes in the computer system and other times they weren't. And if it was before a very specific date in 2002, it was like, oh, we got to go and pull those from the actual filing cabinet. So Mormonism and the military both digitizing all their records at the same time. Is that just a coincidence?
Well, actually, Bill Gay started that way earlier than that. So this was actually done while Howard Hughes was still alive. It was started with Hughes Dynamics, and he got pissed when he found out Bill Gay did this and started kind of a sub company without his permission. And he said, shut it down. He's just wanting to put all of those genealogy files in for the Mormon church. So shut it down. That was like one of his quotes from the books. And so it just, yeah, he was already, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't nearly as good as what it became, but there were it was all like the very startup of some sort of computerization, clearly not a real computer, but maybe it was. We always know that the 3-letter agencies have things way before we do, so it makes one wonder, right? Like, who knows?
And Bill Gates and the Mormon
Gay.
Church got
Yeah.
into a bidding war for like this huge chunk of farmland in Utah too, right?
Yep. Oh, and the Gates family, well, so I think Shelly is on here. She's told me some things. And also I got another email just barely where there's connects with the Gates family and Mormons. So, you know, not just with money, like going back to Dartmouth. And I have not had time to deep research this, but it was a very interesting email that I got from a family member who sent me their family tree and was like, you need to look at this. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. So, you know, I can't say for sure, but I can tell you it says it goes up through, let's see, and she herself is a genealogist through Eliezer Wheelock. And so, you know, I don't know. So it's interesting because we know the Wheelocks were in with Dartmouth, and Dartmouth goes in with the Mormons, and it just goes into a whole big thing.
So here's another one, another interesting one. So I'm sure you've heard of Project Blue Book, not Project Blue Beam, mind you. Blue Beam is where they stage a second coming or a nuclear war or an alien invasion or whatever in order to get everyone to combine forces again. But Project Blue Book is a U.S. Air Force program that investigated UFO sightings 1952 to 1969. And it says here that it was the third in a series of studies on UFOs following Project Sign and Project Grudge. And in part of this Project Blue Book, there is a reference to a Salt Lake City connection here. Hold on, I've got it that I'll pull it up. But like there's just so many more connections to Mormonism and UFOs than you might expect on just first look. I'll find it again. Oh, are you muted or am
Me.
There you go.
It's very interesting when we get to the upper echelon and how obsessed they are, as we've gone over before in our NASA show, right? With space, with other entities type situation. We've got people inventing things left and right because they heard from God. Like, I don't know what's exactly going on, but definitely there's other realms, right? So
here's a report, Project Blue Book Report, 1958, Salt Lake City, Utah, June 1st. And here it says, brief summary of sighting, an object, shape of an AC. I don't know what AC stands for in this case. Bluish with a green glow, no sound, disappeared in back of some trees where first sighted.
Very interesting.
So there's another official, I guess this is official as you can get, right? A military document of someone reporting that they saw this UFO object. And this is, 1958. So I guess this is in the height of like MK Ultra PSYOP mode.
Right. And then we never know what's going on where, but I can say, like, we have to know there's a lot going on in specifically Utah about a lot of things that are, we'll just say esoteric, right? Even you've brought up to me things that shouldn't fit. Like, why on earth were there different like societies here, right? You were the first one to bring this up to me. And I'm like, this seems very strange. Why would this be here? I mean,
part of that was from a book that Juan and I reviewed on the Occult Book Club. This is just one of many examples, but in this book, it was a guy that was studying under Israel Regardie, who's one of the modern alchemists that claims to have actually completed the lesser work, and some of his students claim that they went on to solve the greater work. But that Israel Regardie's teacher, he ends up moving to Salt Lake City and starting this whole alchemical lab in Salt Lake City, and then eventually I believe they moved to Australia when Salt Lake City doesn't pan out. And he was trying to get everyone to move out of California into Salt Lake City. And he's like, you guys are crazy. It's great here. Why don't you want to leave California and come to Salt Lake City? And they're all like, the place is kind of weird, man. Like, I don't know if it matches our vibe. And he's like, you guys are crazy. This is the best place ever.
Well, I mean, it does have a lot of strange. We do have, like I said, mountains. We have desert. We have the Dead Sea, so to speak. It's the closest to the Dead Sea of any other compilation. I've looked that up and done extensive research on that for the Great Salt Lake. There's no other salt in the world comparable to it in general, but the closest is the Dead Sea. So when we look at all this stuff, and then let alone, the mining aspects and gold and copper and all this stuff, like it's just interesting, very interesting. So yeah.
Good call out. Old World Micmac. The AC, maybe it stands for aircraft.
Awesome.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. And then Britt says, I'd love to hear more about the energy harvesting. That was just a random article that came up on Reddit where someone was talking about and I think it was AI generated, although it is an interesting concept. Although I guess you could sort of leverage that same claim against any group, any religion, like they're just energy harvesting. I used to think that too, that when I would go to Catholic Mass as a kid and everyone's like singing in unison and standing and kneeling at the exact same times, that always felt like a magical ceremony. That, I mean, it kind of is by definition, right? You're not allowed to call it that because then you're a blasphemer, but it's essentially just organizing everyone. Now everyone think about this at the same time. Now everyone pray about this at the same time. They even had a very specific section in the middle during communion, and then at the end of Mass where it's like, okay, everyone, let's pray for so and so to get better. Let's pray for so and so's business to start making more profit. That was an actual thing that happened in the church I grew up in.
Well, I definitely say, yeah, I say that just for the temple ceremony alone, because exactly what you're saying, right? We're doing ancient rituals, and when you put into AI, like, what is the Mormon LDS temple ritual closest to? It will say Babylonian. And so, I mean, look, they can say it's not magic all day long. They can say they're not doing anything with the energy all day long. But when we're doing all these things for dead people, okay, we only go through the temple the first time for ourselves, one time only. After that, every time after that, you go in by proxy for a dead person. So when you're talking about that, we're talking about, by essence of the definition, necromancy, because that is the definition when you're doing things for the dead. But what does that bring the person that is getting the energy, right? It says necromancy helps you get knowledge of the future, right? Like a divining type thing. And what do we call the prophet of the church? The prophet, seer, and revelator. It's absolutely a connection for me as far as how I feel about it, specifically to that. And probably to your point with Catholics as well, because a lot of their stuff goes back to the oldest religion too. Like it just does. So yeah.
Where is this in the Mormon text? I mean, I think it's between the lines, right? Like if I'm making an analogy between a Mormon temple or a Catholic Mass and say harp, it's kind of the same premise. Obviously, the Bible doesn't say we're setting up an energy harvesting array, and the Book of Mormon doesn't say that. But look at what harp is. So harp is basically this huge grid of antennas, and each one of these antennas is capable of beaming a signal at a very specific spot. And what they do is they just get hundreds of these antennas to all focus on the exact same spot. And with so much energy being concentrated in such a tiny area, it actually heats up the ionosphere and it causes it to thin and separate. And by doing that, not only did they let some of those nice rays back in, ozone, they split it up so UV comes in, but also it can change the direction of communication. So if you're leveraging the ionosphere to bounce signals off of, if you can spread it out a little bit, you can change the trajectory and you can misdirect signals to either interpret them or to break up other people's signals. And that's the on the books definition of what some of these HARP sort of experiments are about. And I'm personally and just extrapolating that to saying that's exactly what happens in a Catholic mass. It's exactly what happens in a Mormon temple. Is that it's like an organic version of a HARP mind control grid.
Well, I mean, people can call it a joke or whatever all they want, or like HARP or whatever you want to say. Like here,
this lady is a joke. They're not calling it a joke. They're calling you a joke.
look, right.
Personally.
But what I'm saying coming out of my mouth isn't my information. It's your church's. So who's the joke? Obviously you must not have done your studying, because nothing that I ever say doesn't come with receipts. So unfortunately, most people don't do enough research to understand anything. So they just say, oh, just like Juan used to say, right? Like he got sick of stuff because some person had come on and do some stuff like that after like we've done hours and hours and hours and hours of research and reading and studying. That's fine. You can think whatever you want. You're not going to hurt my feelings, but you just make yourself look a little uneducated because you're not looking at the full picture or what we're saying. Like can I prove it? No. But if you've studied into old religions, and I'm talking the oldest religions, you might be enlightened a little bit. So
let's do more Mormon UFOs. This is another from the 1947 craze. July 12th, 1947, a 9-year-old and his family were flying a 2-seater from Vegas to Salt Lake City. UFO sightings and the crash near Roswell were big news. So, I mean, part of that is that it's in the news everywhere. So now everyone's like, I want to see the next UFO. And it says at 3:30 p.m., a group of silver-colored disc-shaped objects zipped past the Page's plane, coming within 50 feet of the aircraft at the same altitude. It was a near miss. At first, we thought it was birds. We just saw movement. My husband turned to where they were going, and they zoomed away like crazy. It kind of got scary when we turned towards the direction, and they just disappeared. So here's a family in 1947 that were flying that claimed to have encountered not just one UFO, but a whole series of UFOs that just disappeared once they tried and get their eye on them. So I don't. These kind of reports don't necessarily convince me, but it absolutely shows precedent that there is something within the area around Salt Lake City in particular that did have people claiming more UFO sightings than elsewhere.
Very strange.
And then they told the story to Frank Salisbury, again, the guy that invented the Salisbury fake.
No. Mr. Salisbury himself. Right.
Mr. Salisbury.
But, yeah. Now there's been a lot of documented stuff here. And I think that's why, they were so in tune with the whole Skinwalker Ranch thing, which is fascinating. Did you look up the back history on that for people that have never heard it?
On which one?
The actual Skinwalker Ranch story and like what happened there, like the original.
Can you give us a summary of it? I know I've heard it from a different sources.
We definitely do an actual pull up because they're wanting all their receipts tonight. So I don't want to.
I treat this like Walmart though. It's like you don't get to check my receipt. I'm just walking out, and you're not allowed to touch me. Otherwise, I'll sue the corporate headquarters.
There you go. Well, okay. So it had a lot of cattle mutilations, and it gained a ton of notoriety for this, right? Like there was unexplained, like they would go out and they were almost vampiric mutilations where the blood was all gone, but there was no marks and all these weird things. And so, it was weird. And this was before it was ever owned by a corporation. These were just real farmers. These were like regular people, ranchers that were just not into any of that stuff, right? But it's definitely linked into Native American folklore, specifically with Navajo, which is why they're talking about skinwalkers on that. So we look at that and we see that there's been a lot reported in that specific area, especially at that specific cattle ranch. And so it's situated in Uinta Basin of the northeastern Utah near the border of the Navajo Nation. And so, of course, they've had tons of sightings resembling skinwalkers from like humanoid type creatures, and also all these mutilations of animals and different things, to the point where the family just were kind of tired of it, and they wanted to sell out because it was pretty traumatizing for them. So
Yeah, so the
yeah.
early stories of the Skinwalker Ranch was about people that had just purchased it and were trying to get back out of it, I guess. This is pretty common too. There was a story about I'm sure you've heard this, and I'm sure a bunch of people in chat have heard this. It was about the underground lizard city in LA.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you heard about this one? Yeah, the
Oh yeah.
underground lizard city beneath Los Angeles, with an advanced race of lizard people. Legend gained traction in the 1930s when G. Warren Schaffelt, a mining engineer, claimed to have found evidence using radio X-ray. And here's a map of it. I guess it won't bring it back up, but if you look into this story, the guy owned the land, and originally he bought it because he wanted to resell it as part of he was a little bit late to the game on the gold rush, but he's like, hey, I'll buy this land and I can resell it and flip it, make all this money off it. And it didn't turn out that way. So I guess the official story, the Rockefeller educated story, is that he was just thinking, okay, well, if they don't want to buy it because I can't prove there's oil or gold here, what if I say there's an underground city of reptilians? Maybe then someone will buy this land. So it might have been a marketing strategy to offload this land that he didn't want anymore. And if he could find the right, I guess, mark that would be like, would you say underground alien city? I'm in. Here's the money. I'll buy it right now. That might have been part of the strategy. And it sounds somewhat similar to some of the origins of the Skinwalker Ranch story, where a family buys property, maybe want to get out of it, and now all of a sudden, oh, but there's aliens here too, and there's all these other sightings. Maybe that will spur the economy a little bit.
Yeah, it's possible. Although they really didn't want to. I know for that particular family, they didn't want to leave. They were pretty upset and traumatized over it, and it kept happening. But of course, as we get into anything like this, there's three-letter agency activity. Like you said, we're at the height of MK Ultra stuff. Like, are they pushing a narrative? Is this happening for that reason? We just will never know. But unless they declassify it, fascinating. I wish they would.
Well, and even if they do declassify it, does that prove anything, or is that just here's the military's version of the story?
Right. That's true too. Yeah, maybe it's just all going to be, whatever they want it to be. But I do think that, dismissing a non-written people is really unwise, because I think some of the best stories that we have that exist into this type of stuff continue through the non-written people. And it's funny that they're the same in Alaska as they are in Utah, but yet they didn't travel back then like that, right? And so clearly there was something going on, but what it was, I can't say. So
and we've got some clever people in comments. They have discovered it is in fact Tuesday as we record this for monthly Mormon Monday.
But it's such a catchy name. It's a good
It is. We can't get away from the name.
We can't. We cannot do it. Yeah. And I just think it's really important when we look at anything, right? Especially Native Americans or Native even Canadians. When we're looking at this stuff, they are the people that seem to keep these stories, flowing throughout the years and years and years, and they don't falter. So these are really important for them. And so to just say, well, that's ridiculous because they're non-written people, I think is a super disservice. And actually, it's ridiculous because at some point there were many, many unwritten people, right? Like Muslim, there's all kinds of them. So yeah. I don't know.
There's a slight hint to, and this is in Mormonism in general, but Skinwalker Ranch gets some of this. But it's it's called a fallacy of the noble savage, and this is like, well, if the Native Americans did it and they were clearly perfect, and they never got anything wrong. They didn't lie to people, and they didn't have psyops or any of that. Like, they were just pure of heart and spirit, which I don't believe. I don't think that's true at all. But that does end up becoming a point of debate sometimes, where someone's like, "Well, here's evidence that the Native Americans believe this thing. So what are you going to argue with that?" Like, I will. I'll still argue with that. I don't think Native
Sure,
Americans,
we could.
they didn't
Well,
have it
I
all
mean,
figured out, clearly.
but we can't just chuck it out because they're not written people. Like, I think that's
What
ludicrous, you know?
again, point Mormons is that Mormons were some of the first, and this might be a
Definitely.
little bit controversial, but were some of the first kind of Western explorers that actually acknowledged Native Americans and at least preserved in their own way some of the belief systems. Like, Joseph Smith clearly was inspired by Native American folklore and mythology, and incorporated that into some of his beliefs that kind of expanded to Mormonism.
Absolutely. Well, and they were great at keeping records, like you said, like they push that even to this day, but it has hung them multiple times. So I just, I don't know. I think that we have to look at it all as a whole and say, okay, what is this to me? What is this in general? But this one here is just, this guy's kind of going on and on and on, and it's just silly. Like, if you're a Mormon, go to your Mormon channel. You shouldn't be watching this. It's Exmo material. Got to get out of
Well,
here.
no,
So.
this is Mamo material too. I'm on the
Well, I'm kind of
market. I'm
over it.
courting. They don't want
So
me. I'm one of the
I
few that's like, I'm interested, and they're like, we're not.
yeah, I'm definitely over that. But I mean, it's just not helping for the show for any of it. So yeah. Take your Mormon business elsewhere. I don't care.
If
But
you were to go into, I guess when you're growing up as you're, full blown Mormon, and you talk about UFOs in like the Mormon community, is this like, don't talk to that weird girl that's bringing up UFOs? Or do you think you'd get a lot of people saying like, oh, I've seen one. I saw one last week.
yeah, I mean, you'd be weird. Still weird.
You
It's got to be an
okay,
angel.
even within the Mormon
Yeah,
community, you can't
yeah,
see a
no,
UFO.
that's not gonna work. It has to definitely be like, okay, this is a God thing, and even then, unless you're very special, I don't think so. I think you'd still get a lot of pushback. However, I don't know if we've talked about this yet. There is something called, your patriarchal blessing, which they give to you, talking about the map of your life, and a lot of their blessings are given by their feelings and their specialness and their it's just all feeling based, none of it's real in real world too. And when you're about 14, you go get this from the church patriarch, right? And he is the all-knowing, and he sets his hands upon your head and tells you what tribe you're from. He tells you all this stuff. And so it's kind of interesting to me that you like one way but not the other. Like, they're obviously into woo woo. Like, I mean, clearly, I think it's interesting, but
Whether you know it or
I,
not, you're into woo woo.
yeah, you're into woo woo. Yeah, of course. So,
And plus,
uh,
the same reason that Howard Hughes preferred Mormons in charge of everything was because he didn't have to worry about gambling, and he didn't have to worry about them getting in the drugs or
mhm.
alcohol. So I guess
Yep.
for that same reason, which I don't, this is not bulletproof logic. I'm just thinking through the
No, it's
logic of
true.
when thinking
Yeah.
this, but a Mormon UFO sighting might have more credibility because at least you realize they probably weren't coming home from the bar drunk when they saw the UFO, right? They were stone
Absolutely.
cold Mormon sober.
Oh yeah. Yep. They definitely shouldn't be drinking. I mean, they were okay to do white collar crime, but hey, they definitely weren't doing, dirty work crime usually. So, yeah,
Do you think
whatever.
Mormon investors in the 80s were doing coke?
I mean, I think that there's problems in any religion with addiction. Sure.
But I mean,
I
I'm assuming that someone found a loophole. They were like, "Hey, look, in this
I mean,
verse in
it's
the
all
Book of Mormon, it
natural.
says we can,
It's all
as long as we're making good trades, technically we're allowed to do a line every once in a while."
They do say, if you are prescribed it by a physician, you're in the clear, and that's to this day. So, yeah. So, could be benzos, could be oxy, could be any of those things. So, meh.
Drunk Mormon and UFOs is going to be our next country album that we put out.
Let's do it. Let's do it. That's funny. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I think that, there's been a lot of Mormons addicted to things, and I've said this in the past, which is kind of sad because of the doctoral part of it. Like, yes, they won't drink alcohol, and yes, they won't do certain things like smoke or drink coffee, but if the doctor says it's okay, it's okay. And that's what I do. I work at a behavioral hospital in lockdown, and I think it's kind of sad, what we see there. I think it's kind of enabled at some point. So in the 80s, do I think so? Maybe so. They were a little more loosey-goosey with the oxys and stuff back then. So
I have no idea how to pronounce this. I'm going to say
sure. Uinta.
Do you know how to Uinta, the Uinta Basin.
Yes.
What do you know about the Uinta Basin?
The Uinta Basin is out where we were talking about, like in that, I think it's the northeastern part, right? Isn't that? I think that's right. So, but no, not a ton. A lot of UFO stuff out there?
Yes, so the Uinta Basin is southeast of Salt Lake City. I've got a map up. If you're listening, you won't see it. But Salt Lake City is in the top left part, and then this is just under the border to Wyoming, under the northern border of Wyoming. So in the Uinta Basin, they have drilling. Yeah, they do all kinds of drilling, but there's also apparently some claims of like energy activity here that is sort of adjacent to UFO technology.
Ooh.
The highest point in Utah, which is at Kings Peak, is included by this Uinta Basin area. The Uinta Indian Irrigation Project, the Moon Lake Project. That kind of sounds like it's alien involved. I'm just making that up, but it does sound like that. And then the other attractions in that area, Dinosaur National Monument, which this is where Satan or the CIA hid this fake dinosaur skull just to throw you off the track.
That's funny.
So I mean, this is actually pretty interesting. Like, you've got one area right by Salt Lake City that's got dinosaur bones, it's got UFO sightings, and it's got claims to harvesting some sort of energy. So maybe this is where we're going to have to plan the Mormon meetup, is going to be in the Uinta Basin.
Well, I'll tell you, even before they got to Utah, I mean, they were doing some weird stuff. And Joseph Smith was buying Egyptian, so they say, mummies, and storing them at different places and keeping them to display and whatnot. So maybe he was trying to know some other things too back then. I don't know what he was doing with all that, but that's real. That's a real story. So,
and before anyone's like, where's your receipts? Here you go. The Joseph Smith papyri are Egyptian funerary papyrus fragments from ancient Thebes dated between 300 and 100 BC, which, along with 4 mummies, were once owned by Joseph Smith, the founder of the Latter-day Saint movement. So yeah, Joseph Smith was into collecting mummies, which is one of the things that I would collect if I got rich and owned a religion.
You'd make you a mummy museum?
Not even a museum. I would just collect them and just stash them around the house for my own reasons.
With your pickled punks?
Yeah.
That would be great.
And I mean, for any of the Tartarians out there that are big into like old world, it says, after Smith's death, the papyri passed through several hands. They were presumed to reach a museum in Chicago and subsequently destroyed in the Great Chicago Fire. So
that
just
damn cow.
Erasing history, right?
Yep, always. Oh yeah.
So I don't know. Again, every time we do one of these episodes, I feel more and more sold on Mormonism, because they collect freaking mummies. They believe in UFOs. They got UFO sightings, treasure hunting. There's really not a lot of downsides, especially as a guy. I could see if I was a girl.
Just now,
I would be like,
because it's different. But...
right.
Now,
Maybe
if you've got a mummy, they'd be like, Thomas,
you left right when it was getting good. Like, why did you leave as Mormonism was improving?
I don't know if it's ever going to come out of the Brigham era. Like, you do know there was a reformation of the church under Brigham Young, and that's when they chucked out a lot of the weird stuff. So I think it's a disservice in general. Even though I'm not a Mormon anymore, I still don't believe that anybody's history should be devastated like that. I just think it's wrong. I think we're one of the few people in the world that don't know their history, which is sad all the way around, in my opinion. I don't know.
Well, on purpose a little bit, right? Because
Oh, of course.
the
Yeah.
Mormon church has the resources and the ability and the history and the devotion of its followers that if they were to say, okay, Mormonism from now on, you're going to learn about the history of our people and the history of this area, they could make sure that everyone that goes through temple and grows up in Mormon communities becomes an expert in history. But I can't think of a single religion when that ever works out, right? Because then people get all caught up in the nuances. But
Yeah.
but now with Mormon, the way that you describe it, Mormonism has been so abstracted from the actual history that now
Yes.
people go through it and they just put on the magic underpants and they don't know what makes them magical. They don't know about the symbols that are on them even, right?
Nope. Well, for them, I'm not going to say none. Maybe some people are given better information, like from their family members, or maybe the men are. Specifically, I don't get to know what the men know because they know different things than the women. So we could ask Jacob sometime. He might
Mummies
know.
wrapped in money, I guess.
There
Yeah.
we go.
Mormons have enough of it, of
Wow,
mummies and
that is
money.
true. Oh, yeah. I'm curious if they kept them. You spoke about the underground city of reptilians. We know that there's definitely underground tunnels all over Salt Lake and Ogden, and they use them. Al Capone talked about using them when they were running alcohol. In fact, he said that he wouldn't stay in Utah because it was too rough for him. So there's that fun. But
Yeah,
yeah,
there's an article, Secret Tunnels Under Ogden's 25th Street. That
yes.
many basements in use have boarded up, cemented in, closed off openings and walls. This is
And
in a lot of cities, maybe not as much in
Salt
Florida.
Lake even more. Hmm.
Well, there are a lot of ones on the West Coast and in these mountainous regions, that these entire, like, where was I at? I think I was in Seattle recently, and they have an entire underground
It
city. And I mean,
was
it's abandoned
so
now. Now it's
cool.
an attraction, but you go down there and it's literally just storefronts that are buried underground.
We were just there. We did that tour. Did you do that tour?
We didn't do that
It
tour.
was
I
so
mean, it
cool.
looked cool, but I didn't, it was, I was like, wait, I'm going to pay how much? And you're just going to like walk me through some dank, sort of like abandoned.
Right. Yeah, it was. It was very, but it was weird to see like the sidewalks and the windows and the shops underneath, shout out beneath the streets. We had a great time. And the people that run that were really fun as well. So I actually took some videos to do a little podcast on that. They were
You
okay
know,
with it.
it's
So
called the Seattle Underground now. That's what they call it.
mhm.
And again, it was
A
started
fire.
on
Yeah,
fire,
a
and they
fire. These
raced more
damn
of
cows.
the history.
His actually was better. The Seattle fire was more fun. He was a drunk guy, I think she said, and he blew something up. I can't remember fully, but I know it had to do with a drunk guy because it made me laugh. And I bet the next day he just like left town quietly. He was probably like, "Oh, gotta go." Started the whole town on
It
fire.
says at approximately 2 p.m. on June 6th, 1889, an accidentally overheated glue pot in a carpentry shop started the most destructive fire in the history of Seattle.
And he was apparently drunk, but
At Jim
it's pretty
McGow's
funny.
paint shop.
Oh boy, Jim. Naughty, naughty.
This one doesn't throw any
Yeah.
shade at the guy being drunk, but I can definitely assume that. I've heard the same about the cow in Chicago. It was drunk when he kicked
The
over
cow
that.
was drunk.
Yeah, when he kicked over the candle.
Love it. Yeah, the cow story is a little hard to believe. That's for sure. John Levi's done a lot of work here in Salt Lake City, on underground stuff and Tartaria, and he has a whole bunch of videos about it. It's fascinating to me, really. So check him out.
And just for the record, the popular legend that Miss O'Leary's cow knocked over a lantern starting the Chicago fire is likely untrue. So Theories include cinder from a neighboring chimney,
A
a
drunken neighbor.
neighbor, or even a meteor strike.
Oh, blame that
My
meteor
money is on the drunk every time.
every time.
Drunks
Yeah.
or some. It's probably someone just fell asleep in bed with a cigarette, and that's what started the Chicago fire.
Oh man, could you imagine burning down the whole city? You wake up and you're just like, "Oh my gosh, the hangover. Whoa. What
Well, again,
happened
you don't
here?"
see that happening in Salt Lake, right? Because no one's allowed to
Oh,
smoke or drink, so you're not going to
wow.
get a Chicago fire in Salt Lake.
There you go. Oh boy. Yeah, it's funny. I don't know. I don't know what truly happened to all of our cities, but it's interesting. It's always the same thing. So,
Well, I think that
yeah,
this
for
has been a
sure.
fun one so far. UFO and
Absolutely.
Mormonism, I didn't actually think there was going to be that much crossover, but it's wild. I mean, even the Philo Farnsworth thing, that blew my mind. I didn't know about that until today, that he was also a Mormon. So, no matter where you look in occultism, in the UFO world, in the world of the CIA, the mafia, Scientology, Alistair, like all of these, if you look far enough, you'll be like, oh, they were obsessed with Mormonism in like the inner echelon of all these different groups. And we're not just talking about, oh, there was a Mormon guy that just happened to work there. They specifically said, hey, these Mormons will be very useful for these reasons, because the way that they were brought up is to just do what authority says, don't ask
Yep.
questions, don't drink, be reliable. They're consistent and predictable, right? These are all good things.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said though, there's different levels of it. I mean, but yeah, taking orders is definitely something they definitely knew how to do and still do to this day. So, thinking outside the box is probably, not one of the things they do well. They're excellent at three-letter agencies because half of the brainwashing is done for you. So,
If people want to hear more about all of your research, whether they love it or they hate it, but again, you were just recently on Tinfoil Hat with Sam Tripoli talking about this. You were on the Confessionals with Tony Merkel. Is there anything that you didn't get to talk about in either of those shows that you wish you had gotten into?
oh man, I did go a little deeper in the tinfoil hat one about the Mexican link in Mexico for Chihuahua and all that stuff, and it would have been nice to be able to expand a little more, but we were on short time. That one's an interesting one, and the people you want to talk about metal Mormons, those are your folks, Thomas. I mean,
When we
whoa,
say
things
metal
get
Mormons, you
wild.
mean like rock
I
on metal
mean,
Mormons,
like
or like
you know how you
alchemical
were.
metal Mormons?
No, no. Well, possible, but the people that will kill their own brother and keep that feud going. Oh,
Oh,
yes, they
the
did.
Cowboys,
The Cowboys.
Cowboy
I
Mormons.
know you love that stuff. So we should definitely do one about that sometime because it gets wild. And they stayed true to their polygamous roots. As far as a lot of the weird stuff that I was talking about for the whole Jesus had kids story and where they can find that stuff. I didn't go into because the bloodline thing gets really hard for people to comprehend. As I said, I didn't make it up. That's very Templar-esque. So,
Hard
but
to
Joseph spoke.
comprehend because it's unbelievable, or just because it gets so deep in the weeds of tracing all the different family lines?
No, I think they just can't possibly comprehend that he would have ever said that, or it's all disbelief again. We just get into like, if this doesn't sound like something I like, then her nose is big and she's stupid and you should try to dye your hair brown. So it's just like, because you can't argue with the facts that are all over the internet or in books or anywhere else. I can't make this stuff up. Like, why would I? But it gets into a very personal attack. And so, it is what it is. But I didn't say it, like I said. And there are polygamist families to this day called the Kingstons, like King's son, Kingston. And they keep their bloodline pure by marrying their nieces and their aunts and whatever. And they've also gotten really rich. So they hire geneticists so they don't have anomalies anymore. And that's going on still to this day. So obviously that came from somewhere. Heidi didn't make it up. I didn't make up that they have to marry their aunt or sister. So yeah, that gets all fun.
And plus, if you are really big into polygamy, or just really big into keeping it in the family or inside the community. This gets off on tangents, but an interesting note is that just because you keep reproducing with the same gene pool, it doesn't necessarily damn all of your offspring for life. There's actually a certain cadence where it's like, once you notice that the kids are starting to come out a little bit dumber than they should, then you can just kind of switch off and go branch out a little bit for one generation, and then go right back into that same sort of inbred pattern again, until again one comes out and their eyes a little droopy, and you're like, all right, time to back off the
Oops.
sauce and venture out a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and now they just completely do it with genetics. It's wild to me, but these things go into Egypt, right? We get back into some of the oldest religions and some of the oldest thoughts, and some of these things are really odd. I will definitely sign up and be the first to say, for sure, that's weird, right? And absolutely, this is the truth. Yeah. And so, we're we're just, yep. And marrying sisters in the Mormon religion was really common and still is common for a lot of the polygamy sects. So it was kind of a cool thing to be able to marry your sister and actually have her be your sister wife too. And he married mother-daughter pairs. Like, this is, yeah. I mean, I don't know how you deal with that one when the kids come. I guess that's awkward, but hey, whatever.
He would have been a
long as you
big
don't-
hit with the kids today in 2020s. Like hooking up with moms and daughters. Like there's an entire
Oh,
website
man.
dedicated to that.
Yeah, there's shows on that, right? There's like full shows on that. I think there is, but yeah, we just never know. We never know, but all these weird tangents and things that we throw out there, like this is just books and stuff. Like I can't make it up because it's too great. So for that, I have lots of episodes. Episode 172 for people that have no basis for any of the knowledge that I'm talking about is a really good one to just get the exact basics. If you've never been taught this stuff, even if you're LDS, I knew like none of this stuff before I got out of the church. So that one might help people. I always lead them to that one first. So yeah.
And shout out, the chat's been great tonight. Hey, Kathy from Georgia. And Donald talking about sex. And we've got a whole bunch. I'm trying my best to figure out a nice constant stream of topics, and hopefully we'll have like a list of like, here's what you can look forward to on the next episode. Although it jumps around depending on if Andreas can join us or if
That's
Jacob
true.
can join us. And we even might have Jamie Hanshaw come on here. That I've done a bunch of occult Disney with her, but she loves Disney stuff, and there's a whole thread on Disney Mormons that we're going to get into at a certain point. Here's some of the other things that are kind of on the list for coming episodes. I don't have dates for these, but the Church of the Firstborn of the Lamb of God, which is one of these like violent
the Mexico Mormons. That's the ones.
We still have to do another follow-up on the Howard Hughes JFK Mormon Mafia, because like all JFK topics, that could be 20 episodes and we still wouldn't be able to get to all of it. I definitely we'll probably have to get Andreas on for an entire episode just on Kolob and the Cosmic Priesthood.
Yes.
Probably my favorite part of all this. We'll have to do one on blood atonement, which also seems like one of the cool selling points of Mormonism. Not that I would want to be involved in a blood atonement, but just that it exists is kind of cool. It's like Omerta, right? It's kind of like a mafia type thing. Then we've got the Lost Tribes and the North Pole and Mormon Hollow Earth theories, which is another fascinating topic that we haven't even talked about yet on here. Okay, here's one called Zelf the White Lammonite.
Zelf
Smith found on a hill. And we've briefly
You just made my husband laugh hysterically. He's definitely going to comment on Zelf. I promise you. Yep.
Zelf sounds like that would have been an awesome sci-fi movie in the 80s.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's movie worthy, right? Joseph Smith finds a talking corpse in the top of a hill.
Right? You would think so, but I mean, even Moroni was a dead guy, so they call him an angel, but he once was alive. So,
And of course, we recently did one on Mormon beard magic, but Jacob ended up losing an entire engine block or something
Oh,
like 5 minutes before we started.
that's
And
horrible.
Andreas was like, not fair. I need time to grow a beard before I can talk with any authority
Oh,
on beards. So we'll see if the Mormon beard magic. We'll have a part 2 on that one as well. If anyone wants us
absolutely.
to get into any more of these details or anything else that came up, and you're like, Heidi, show your receipts. Let us know what that topic was. For example,
Please
maybe
do.
Moonchild and Mormonism could be a good episode, and we
It's a
can
good one.
bring out a copy of Moonchild and say, here it is on page so and so, and here he is talking about Joseph Smith. In fact, if
Yep.
I'm going to add that right now to our list, it's going to be
Add it up.
Moonchild and
Yes.
Mormonism.
Yep. That one's a good one. You know, Crowley had a lot to say about Joseph Smith, and I found that pretty interesting. But he, you know, they know when they see a master at work, and I think the respect that Crowley showed him talks a lot, in my opinion. Of course, only my opinion on that one.
All right, gun to head, you have to renounce all other religions, and you have to either follow Joseph Smith or Aleister Crowley. Which one do you go with? And you have to pick one. You can't say neither.
Oh my. Well, I mean, Joseph Smith was less debaucherous, so
Oh, there you
at
go.
least.
You've all heard it. Heidi Love is ready to rejoin Mormonism. So you know that
But
we've
it's
got
not
your
like
name
that
and your
anymore.
address
Yeah.
and your contact info. So this officially is her asking them, reach
Oh,
back out.
yes.
Pull her
They
back
come
in
to
the
my
fold.
house sometimes. Yeah, they do come occasionally. But you know, they still haven't kicked me out, which I find hilarious. Oh, there he is. I knew it. I knew he was gonna say something. Oh,
The
that's too
great
funny.
Zelf, the great white.
Yes, the great white Lamanite, because you know, in this world, also Moroni was Native American, and he also became white and delightsome and all white. So apparently, you know, there's a lot to be said on that. We won't go there today, but there is a lot.
Oh, what's
Yeah.
this? This is a news site that I haven't heard of. Mormoner, keeping
Oh
it weird.
man,
This sounds cool. We're gonna
that
have
he's
to.
excited about this one. You guys back up. Thomas is excited.
Well, there he is. I mean, this is necromancy again, right? This is literal Mormon
Well,
necromancy where they're digging
I
up
mean,
a.
they've dug up Joseph and his brother, and they actually dug up the other brother while Joseph was also still alive, like digging them up and then making coffin canes out of the deteriorating body corpse wood. I guess that's not necromancy to them. I don't know, but that happened.
How reliable is the story about Zelf? Answer: reasonably reliable. So good enough for me.
Mm. And those coffin canes are at your guys' museum for the LDS church. So
I like this question. Doesn't this story make it seem like Joseph Smith was just making things up? No, absolutely not. That's actually heresy, and you're not getting a
apparently,
planet. If you think that Joseph Smith was just making things up, you don't get a planet. That's how this works.
no planets. Yeah, remember, we don't get them anymore.
Well, you don't because you're an Exmo, but
Yeah, well,
my
they took it
recruiter
away.
says they're back on the table now if I can remember the catechisms
I
or whatever.
wanna see that. I wanna see that in writing, because all they say is, "We never said that. We didn't say that." What? I'm like, yes, you did.
Here's a question. Here's a word I've never seen before. Who are the Mulekites? Oh god, that sounds like a horrible slur. Are we gonna get banned
Let's
for
see. Uh-oh.
saying
Hopefully not.
Mulekite? Did you just get me to say a horrible word and like
We
a
have to
mule?
look.
Okay, Mulekite is a group of people from the Americas from Jerusalem, led by Mulek. Okay, we're in the clear.
Oh, okay.
We didn't say
Okay.
anything that'll get us on the ADL website yet.
Oh, man. Well, not this time.
Oh well, what else do you have coming up? I mean, we said that your Joe Rogan appearance isn't for another couple months. What's before
yeah.
that?
He doesn't know I'm alive. But hey, Joe Rogan, if you hear this, I mean, call me up, right? Apparently. And Paranoid American and me will be happy to make an appearance on your show. Also, I have been busy with Onassis. When I started the Mormon Mafia, I started going down all of the people that I thought would be like, this is fascinating. Let's do this and this. Onassis was a hard one. He's only related to the Mormon Mafia a roundabout, and especially through Mayhew. But Onassis is fun all on his own. So, yeah. Well, and his dad's name is Aristotle and his son's name was Alexander. Whenever you get a family like that, I mean, they know some things, right? So Onassis is coming. The next one will be Sins of the Father for Father Kennedy. We will definitely be talking about him and Chappaquiddick. We can't go anywhere without talking about those fun things, right? And I don't know if you know this, but I did start a solo show called Lucidity. And it's just my information dump show. It got pretty good reviews. I've done only one so far, but I figured, hey, why not? So just in case I need it.
And you did mention the word of the day, which was Onassis, and you can't talk about Aristotle Onassis and not talk about his whale penis upholstered bar stools.
Oh,
so it's a real thing.
It's real.
Aristotle Onassis had this yacht, which ends up getting sold a few different times to some elites, and he outfitted this bar with actual whale foreskins called dork skin, because a dork is a whale penis. So, better known as whale foreskin. So he created this entire bar, and in the background, you can't see it in this particular photo, but it has like these sexual scenes of all this debauchery happening inside his whale penis bar. So that's just something that the Onassis family was into, Jackie included.
Well, Jackie, if you read the book Nemesis, Jackie is an interesting character if what is in that book is true, which I mean, he has a lot of receipts himself. So I found it very interesting, including speaking about other women's genitalia in great depth in front of others. So that was fun, but whatever. I like to definitely go over all of the family, and we'll keep going down that line to just see what we can see, because it's fun. And like I said, as for me, Heidi Love of the Unfiltered Eyes, everywhere podcasts are served. You will definitely always see me here with Paranoid American, sometimes twice a month, mostly once a month. It depends on what we're doing. And we like to do this show together to give you guys some Mormon information, sometimes on Mondays, sometimes not.
And for the record, I'm not really on the market to become a Mormon, but I do think that Mormonism is incredibly relevant for anyone that cares about American history. Like, it is very uniquely American in some ways. So I think that's my fascination. Plus, they were able to take Freemasonry and sort of steal it and reconfigure it, and then they basically turn people into Freemasons without them knowing that they just became a Freemason. I don't know. There's something
Talk about hoodwinked. Talk about hoodwinked. I mean, at least you guys get to know later, right? Not me.
Maybe.
Not me so much. I mean, but yeah, I think that's a good way to explain it. And the Templars again go into this, and Martinism I think is a fascinating trail that it leads, but of course unprovable.
The Templar connection, so many people try and claim that as some sort of a link to the past, like, oh, my ancestors were incredibly important because they were Templars. I don't know if anyone's really been able to prove lineage. Even the Masons tried to do that for centuries, and then eventually they gave up. They were like, all right, guys, we can't. They didn't have the receipts that you have, right? So technically you have, Heidi Love has more receipts than all of Freemasonry did for 2 centuries.
Ouch. That's not fun.
All right. Well, if anyone, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, but it still continues to this day. So there we go.
If you want to hear more Mormon stuff, go back through the catalog of Monthly Mormon Monday on YouTube. It's also a podcast. If you just go to where podcasts are sold and smuggled, just search for Monthly Mormon Monday on there, and you'll find an audio version of all these different back issues. And remember to go to paranoidamerican.com. I got comic books and stickers and play action figures, and we just dropped the Illuminati comic. So if you missed out on that, if you don't even know what I'm talking about, you should absolutely go to illuminaticomic.com. It's a little pamphlet that breaks all of the background. I would love to do one on Mormonism, but I feel like it would be hate, like a hate crime or something.
I mean, you see the love I receive, so.
Well, if you want to collaborate on a Joseph Smith was performing magic booklet or something, we should talk about that.
I think we should do it. It'd be fun.
All right, chat. Let us know. Should we work on a Mormon comic book? I don't know. I feel like I'd get in trouble on that one of all the things.
Well,
Let's do
I
it. Let's do
mean,
it. Sounds
if we
fun.
do the old stuff, right, they're just going to say, well, that was in the past. I think we're safe. Nobody alive.
I think being safe would be if someone reads it and they put it down and like, wait, were they trying to sell me on Mormonism or warn me of Mormonism? And that would be the perfect balance between the two. That if you're so freaked out, you're like, that's so weird, I never want to go near that. That's okay. Or if you're like, that is so weird, it's so cool, I want to be a Mormon now, that's also okay. Right?
Oh,
Do I have
man.
co-sign that? That if there's a chance someone might get persuaded to become a Mormon from something that you did.
I mean, I still will definitely say do not become a Mormon in fine print with a little caption at the bottom. But
she doesn't mean it, guys. She wants you to become Mormon. How many you've got a Mormon body count, right? How many people have you personally converted to Mormonism for your own?
But I got more out. I got more out now. But yeah, no, like before, I mean, I had kids, so definitely 4 kids no, 3, because the last one, she never touched it. And then I had multiple boyfriends. I was the date to convert girl during high school for sure.
The Mormon Black Widow, they called you.
At least 3. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I actually feel bad. Like now I know why my ex-husband's mom was so upset when he got baptized. She was very Catholic, Roman Catholic, and not amused whatsoever.
Well, we're getting demands for a 24-hour Mormon show.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe. We'll definitely have to pull Andreas and Jacob and a few others.
We got to get a bunch of people. Yeah, we got to get a bunch of people together.
Everyone likes debate shows now. We need to have like who do you think the biggest competition is for Mormons right now? Like if you're about to join Mormonism, but then someone across the street's like, wait, before you join the Mormons, is it the Catholic Church, or are they in cahoots now?
I mean, they're never going to be in cahoots outside of the New World Order meetings, right? But I think possibly out this way, it would just be non-denominational Christian at this point.
Oh, that's the worst.
At least where I live,
Where the worst kind of Christian is a non-denominational Christian. At least pick.
That's what I am.
You have 40,000 denominations to pick from, and you're going to be like, none of those are quite. It's like going to Baskin and Robbins and being like, I don't see any flavors I like. Like, come on.
Well,
guy.
You do know. That's how Mormonism was started. He didn't see any flavors he liked.
Someone was like, which flavor comes with a planet? And they were like, what are you talking about? And he's like, that's it. I'm starting my own.
Yeah. They're like, oh, that's interesting. Let's do that.
All right. Well, we'll catch everyone at the next one. Make sure you tune in. If you haven't listened to Heidi on Tinfoil Hat or on the Confessionals, go listen and leave a super nice comment about how great she is and that Joe Rogan needs to have her on next.
Right. And if you can, and you actually do like my work, go to Apple and leave a review. That would be very helpful to me. Thank you so much.
All right. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Paranoid. Yo. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane, paper the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real to real. You will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the Lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hey, maybe your language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out. Nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blood smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Matters not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when a beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal. You're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal. You're welcome. Yet they doing it still. You're welcome.